Did you see where the lefties are doing a slow burn? Actually, probably a rapid burn over some remarks Donald Trump made about China over the weekend. They just it's they just have to be offended by everything. First of all, the Chinese are beating us over the head. It's like a schoolyard bully coming along, and you're trying to be polite and you're trying to share what you have with the bully, and the bully just pulls out a club, smacks you over the head, and grabs your lunch money, even though you already offered him half of what you had. And it just dealing with these people, and we have growing concerns about what they're going to do in the future as they start building a huge military machine and they're threatening neighbors and still trying to filter American jobs. Donald Trump speaking at a rally over the weekend, and I guess it's the wording of all of this. Somehow, the leftists feel it gives a bad name to the Chinese or either a bad name to rapists. Take a listen.
We have a $500 billion deficit, trade deficit with China. We're going to turn it around, and we have the cards. Don't forget, we're like the piggy bank that's being robbed. We have the cards. We have a lot of power with China. When China doesn't want to fix the problem in North Korea, we say, sorry, folks, you got to fix the problem. Because we can't continue to allow China to rape our country, and that's what they're doing. It's the greatest theft in the history of the world.
Greatest theft in the history of the world. If you just look at the balance of trade and secrets the Chinese have stolen through espionage and then technology Bill Clinton just simply handed them, well, fellow travelers. I guess they figured the Chinese needed it. Trump's got a point. Whether you like him or not, he's got a serious, serious point. And we've been talking about this for months on air. If more traditional Republicans had been willing to stand up at some point and say the same things, they'd be leading this race. But they wouldn't do it. Because I was listening to Cruz over the weekend. I voted for him in a primary. Now, again, he was my number 4 guy. And I'm all the way down to number 4, Trump being 5. I will never vote for Kasich. Well, I don't have to worry about saying that because I won't have to. But I'm telling you right now, we're looking at a situation here where at least somebody is speaking truth about what's going on around the world instead of putting your hands over your eyes and pretending it's not going on. 9 minutes after 9 o'clock. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. Telephone number, if you'd like to reach our program, 736-0300, 736-0300. And you're up next. You're on the air.
Yes, yeah, they bow and smile and stab us right in the back. And the Asians are honorable, especially the Japanese. But when it comes to the Chinese with us, there's absolutely no honor whatsoever. And they're building aircraft carriers that looks just exactly like ours. Whatever else, I mean, bombers, jet planes, whatever. I mean, I might not have all that exactly right, but it's truly frightening what they're building over there. And if we think that somehow our technology is going to stay ahead of them, we better think twice, because not only will they have the technology, they have the manpower, the army, the soldiers, and who knows what they might do. I don't know how this would ever work because we're a trade, we sell them so much stuff, but how can we really trust them?
I think there's two things, but don't go away yet. Two things. Yeah. Number one, I didn't get a chance to read it, but I saw a headline over the weekend that did say that they are rapidly catching up technologically with us. So that's a threat. Number two, I remember all the way back reading in when I was a young man, reading Hal Lindsey's book where he mentioned that in the late 60s, the Chinese claimed they could put 400 million men into the field if they needed to. We've got, a couple of million? So if they'd like to, they've got a lot of bodies they can just throw into the meat grinder. And after a while, attrition, as we learned in Korea, they could do it there. They could just keep throwing body after body after body, and eventually the guy who's firing back runs out of ammunition. We've got to take it quite seriously.
Well, we do. And if I'm not mistaken, our manpower is down to 1.2 or something. I don't know. I could be wrong. I know we're dwindling. And then, of course, our ships are down. Our aircraft carriers are down. Well, the same thing. Our aircraft, our bombers, are we keeping up technologically? I don't know. I know this. Again, if I'm being bullied in the wearable school, that I don't fight back, he's going to continue to bully me till we graduate or something. And
Right.
so something's got to give here. And Trump is, if he does nothing more than build the wall along the southern border and get China under control, that to me is worth voting for. If he, and I guess if people think he's just a liar about everything, well, hell, who the hell have we got in there, and who might we elect if we elect Hillary? She's a lying, you know what?
Absolutely. Hey, thank you for the telephone call. Hillary Clinton speaking at of all things, an NAACP rally in Detroit, Michigan last night. I guess she feels people in the black community are slow talkers.
A weekend-long issue-tainment. It's not just entertainment. It's not just talking about issues. It's both. I think America could use a little issue-tainment.
You know, at least she slowed it down. I guess she feels that that perhaps a black audience can't keep up with her. Is that it? Because she's already been telling jokes about colored people's time, which has got her some flack in recent weeks. I'm just waiting for her to show up at one of these events and say, "Yo, Andy, I see Sapphire coming down the street. You better put that cigarette out." It's only a matter of time. 9:13. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. You're up next. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Bill. Well, you know, early 1960s, we had no trade deficit with anyone in the world. I mean, our trade deficit last year, I think, is $366 billion with China and about 150 with Canada and Mexico combined, and that's been going on for years. So just those two countries, you just start doing the math, and it starts getting to be some pretty big numbers.
Yeah.
And so, but this new trade agreement, this Trans-Pacific Partnership that was negotiated in secret, nobody, the congressmen and senators didn't have access to it, had to go in and take notes, but they couldn't leave the room with their notes. 5,554 pages. Only 5 chapters do with trade. The other 24 have to do with economic political merger. It'll be the end of the independence of this country unless our senators, and I think right now Risch is in favor of it. I think Crapo's come out against it, but the trade groups, cattlemen and, the Wheat Association and so forth, they all think it's just a trade agreement, but nobody really knows what's in it. It needs to be defeated big time or we're in real big trouble, a lot more so than we are now. And China has openly said, we're their number one enemy. And so they're just using this economic stuff to destroy us any way they can.
I would agree, and I thank you for the call. The sad part of this is Jim Risch is like at the top of the list with conservative ratings in the U.S. Senate. But, we don't agree with everyone 100% of the time, and sometimes we have to. And I heard this from one of our state senators, Jim Patrick, over the weekend. You have to let them know what you think. You can do it politely, but you can call the office. Call Mr. Matthews over here at the local office and just share with him politely what your views are on this so that they know. I mean, if nothing else, all right, you say, well, that won't do any good. Well, don't make the phone call at all then, right? Stay home. Crack open another Budweiser and see what happens then. 9:15. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Quick message, got to share this with you. Got this in the email over the weekend. The Twin Falls chapter of Act for America is inviting you to hear from the Northwest Liberty Academy. The folks at Northwest Liberty Academy have been on the program with me before. Former state legislator who term limited herself helps run that program. And good people, very good people. They actually do some youth workshops too as well. This is coming up this Thursday night. That's May 5th, if you're wondering, at 7 p.m. And that will be in the meeting room at the Rosenau Funeral Home on Addison Avenue here in Twin Falls. And then they will have a Meet the Candidates session. And again, this is taking place Thursday, May 5th at 7 p.m. And that's in the meeting room, which if you're facing the building, is on the right-hand side of the Rosenau Funeral Home. So just to share that with you and pass that along. Speaking of Trump, this business over the weekend with all of these people racing around the streets, smashing police cars and trying to overturn them and break into his events and the like, all waving their Mexican flags and holding up signs that someday that they will reconquer the southwestern United States. I guess they need to turn that into a narco-terrorist third world state as well. not good enough to live in a free country and one that's trying to stamp out all of those terrible things. Editorial in the Wall Street Journal today, protesters for Trump. The Mexican flag wavers might as well be voting for the man. It's counterintuitive, the writer says, but we're beginning to wonder if all of those protesters showing up at Trump rallies aren't secret supporters. Even Americans who don't support Mr. Trump may hear this and wonder who is really creating the hate. The spectacles are made for ratings cable TV fodder, and Mr. Trump knows it. Every protester who breaks the law or waves a Mexican flag as a political statement in favor of illegal immigration might as well be voting for Mr. Trump. And a poll today from Rasmussen, and many people say Rasmussen might be the most accurate of all the national polling companies, shows Trump now with a 1-point national lead over Hillary Clinton. People are turning on their TV sets. They're seeing this scum waving these foreign flags, smashing police cars, setting fires, beating up people in the streets. And you know what? You say to yourself, I think this Trump fellow is on to something. 9:17, Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. The Never Trump folks are still at it this morning, still trying to say there's time to stop him and we'll do this. And I've got to tell you, I saw some of Ted Cruz on television over the weekend. And once more, it's the fact that he's using the traditional political handlers. He sits in front of the camera and he repeats the talking points they tell him to repeat. You might be right. Trump may not know the rules as well as he should know the rules. He may not have a great organization like you do to take advantage of the rules and pick up those delegates that nobody voted for. But you've got to realize just how bad that looks to the American people. And the more that Ted Cruz sits there and says, well, yes, but the Donald is dangerous. He doesn't know the rules. Ha, 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 ha. We do, and we're going to continue to pick up these delegates. The more it sounds like he's part of the insider's game. Somebody needs to pull him aside, and there's no time really left. It's pretty much done. They needed to pull him aside a couple of months ago and say, not going to happen. You also additionally have a lot of people in the Republican establishment now lining up behind Trump. Why? One simple explanation, according to Byron York over the weekend, and that's this. They're looking at the figures. All those people who said, well, he only gets a third of all of the vote in the states where he's actually running. Well, then he grabbed about 60% in New York. Then he went and grabbed 60% in a couple of other states last week and close to 60% in 3 others. Times have changed. Trump had said it himself. Just because they're not necessarily voting for me in those early primaries doesn't mean that if the other guys drop out that they still will not vote for me. And he must have been spot on with that. 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. Bill Colley with you this morning on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Up to 48 on our way to near 70 today.